Press the bell icon on YouTube and don't miss another update.
Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Editorial. I have two topics for you, but before I start my editorial, I have an apology to make. Apology because I did two mistakes in my editorial yesterday. My mistake number one is other than saying million tons, I constantly referred to as metric tons. So it was 97 million tons of grains that are in store in the Food Corporation of India. I mentioned it as 97 metric tons of grains, which was erroneous. So is the case with 10 metric tons being bought from US. It is actually 10 million tons that were brought from US to India. So my apologies for that, number one. Number two, the number two mistake I made was it was 5 tons and 4 tons of wheat and rice that Punjab grew per hectare versus 3.5 tons and 2.6 tons of wheat and rice that the rest of the country grows. So that too was a mistake that I committed. I said 216 kilos, but that was wrong. It is, I repeat once again, it is 5 tons and 4 tons of wheat and rice that Punjab grows versus 3.5 tons and 2.6 tons of wheat and rice, which is an average growth in the country. So these are my two mistakes I made. I apologize for it. I'm extremely sorry. That was a miss, and my apologies. Now let's get to our today's story. I've got two stories for you today. One is inspired by a beautiful article written by senior journalist Tavleen Singh in Indian Express, and her article said Narendra Modi's dangerous isolation was the title of her article, and where she said, in a democracy, you just can't hear people through the ballot box. Jab tak ballot box hai, tab tak I will listen to the people. Once the voter have casted his vote, then I will not care a damn of what he thinks. I think a very valid point of view. Let's discuss on this particular thing. The second thing is a short topic of Mr. K.K. Venugopal, our Attorney General of India, wherein he says, you know what, I want people to write in social media. I want people to express themselves in social media. I don't have a problem with people writing in social media. It's only when it goes extreme that I ask for contempt of court. Is that so? Let's discuss that. Let's get right into the show. Tavleen in her article says, in a democracy, people's voice is not just heard through the ballot box, but it is beginning to look as if the Prime Minister has forgotten this. What Tavleen says is, somewhere down the line in India, I think we have started to see dissents as enemies. So, if I am speaking something to you which you are not agreeing to, the chances are possibly you will write an abuse in the comment box. That's a normal, that's a new normal to India. Likewise, even the government, when there is dissent, when there are people who do not agree to the policy, when there are naysayers in the government or to the government rather, the government tends to see them as enemies. Not only the government sees them as enemies, there are a lot of IT cells and other mechanisms which projects them as enemies. We all know what has happened to the farmers' agitation. When the farmers initially started their agitation, they were shown as enemies. There was some film star who had shown an old woman and say she's been paid money to stand there. There are some other people who call them Khalistanis. There are some other people who said that these are all Congress agents and communist agents and all that. There are a lot of videos that shows all sorts of stories about the agitation. Somebody sent me a video yesterday wherein they said that people were asking for money to participate in the farmers' protest, when the actual thing was that this video was shot somewhere in 2015 for some AAP event, and it had got nothing to do with the farmers' protest. But these kind of videos are cut and made it in such a way that the farmers who are protesting are shown and seen as enemies. All of a sudden, when Punjab started questioning the government, Punjab got into the spotlight, and now a lot of people are questioning Punjab and Punjab's farmers. ठीक है. A lot of people who understand farming, a lot of people who do not understand farming. ठीक है. So the point that I'm trying to make is somewhere down the line, now if you actually look back on this government and the way this government has been kind of dealing with dissent, you see a pattern in this government. You see a pattern where this government has never conceded or reviewed or reconsidered the decision that this government has taken. Never. Once the government takes a decision, the government goes ahead and government executes the decision. Well, in all times, every time, is it the right thing to do? That's the question. Let us start with the FTII agitation. You remember the FTII agitation? A gentleman called Gajendra Chauhan, some television actor, who was made the chairperson of possibly India's most prestigious film and television institute. And obviously the children there, the students there, they got agitated. They said it's such a prestigious institute. And Gajendra Chauhan, for all we know, is not a great actor. In fact, well, a lot of people had a lot of things to say about him. And the fact that he was made the chairman, they protested. They said just because he is a Bharatiya Janata Party supporter, just because he supports the Sangh, he can't be made the chairperson of FTII, can he? So I am a Sanghi, so I should be FTII chairman. That is not the qualification enough. So the students protested. The students protested for what? Over 150 days. The government didn't budge. The government said, "Karna protest karo." This is it. End of story. The question is, from a common people's perspective, do you think the students were wrong? You see, a person who himself is not a celebrated or a critically acclaimed actor cannot run an institution, cannot be a chairman of an institute, of the most premium institution of the country. You cannot be. A person who is not an engineer cannot be the chairman of IIT, can he? Okay, the basic requirement for a person to be chairman of IIT is that he is a highly qualified and highly reputed engineer himself to be the chairman of IIT, or a professor of engineering to be the chairman of IIT. You can't just pick anybody up and say that, oh, this is my party fellow, he's done diploma in engineering, so make him chairman of IIT. Why my party fellow? No. Can't be that way. So the fact remains that protest happened, answer, nothing. Gajendra Chauhan stayed. Let us talk about the CANRC protest. We all know what happened to the CANRC protest. Nothing. The CANRC protest happened. Shine Bagh happened. Everything happened. The government didn't budge. The government didn't change the decision. Abrogation of Article 370 happened. The government didn't go out to talk to people, make people understand. Now the point is, I am not nowhere trying to say here that the government at every given point in time, every policy that the government rolls out, the government has to kind of check back, and if there is a protest, roll back. I am not saying that. They should not do it. In fact, they should not do it. I agree to. But I also do not understand that the government can never fault. This I don't understand. I don't understand the concept of my way or highway. I don't understand. I don't understand the government that did something called as demonetization, and it became a major faux pas in terms of our economy. It almost killed our economy, and the government that didn't even come out and say that, listen, I'm sorry. GST was not executed well. The government didn't even come and say it was sorry. The point that I'm trying to make is that the government is not always right. And it is only fair for the government that the government at least listens, speaks to people who thinks differently to them. That is what democracy is, and the more we don't do it, the more we are ceasing to be a democracy. You don't need to agree to whatever the protesters are saying. Of course not. You don't even need to kind of, but it is important for you to at least listen to them. They are our countrymen. You can't say, "Ne baat karega ja." You can't say that. That's not right. And that is what's going to kill our democracy. And somewhere down the line, except for one rollback that this government has done, and that too in 2013. In 2015, my apologies. In 2015, August, the land acquisition bill was, land acquisition, not even bill, it was an ordinance. The ordinance was passed. The land acquisition ordinance passed was rolled back by the Prime Minister of India, and that too he did it in his Mann Ki Baat. He said that we will not implement the ordinance. Land acquisition bill was the, you could, it was something that the 2013 the UPA government had made, and NDA government had changed and in fact made it absolutely redundant, this particular bill. And there was a lot of protest, especially protest from farmers and landowners from Uttar Pradesh and others, and they rolled back that bill. People say it was rolled back because that bill otherwise would have had implication on Uttar Pradesh elections. So coming back to my point, so would this government only hear us before the election? And once the election is over, all of a sudden the government is deaf? If that's the case, then we have serious problem in hand in the future. Have you heard this term called good insult and bad insult? Okay. I will try and explain to you the concept of good insult and bad insult. Good insult is normally when you insult a person who I don't like. So if you insult a person who is my enemy or a person I don't like, that is good insult. I laugh with you. Bad insult is when you insult a person I like, Baba. Then it is bad insult. How dare you do that? How dare you insult a person I like? Okay. Why am I talking about good insult and bad insult? There was an interview with Mr. K.K. Venugopal, the Attorney General of India, in NDTV yesterday. And obviously, like I'm sure, like all of us think, I'm sure the anchor asked him, "Itna contempt of court क्यों कर रहे हो भाई? Why is there so much contempt of court? आदमी मुंह खोलने से डरता है." So we wondered why is the Supreme Court so sensitive? To which he said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "For the health of democracy, open discussion on social media should not be curbed." He said the Supreme Court normally does not react to criticism unless the lines are crossed. He said to curtail this would be unnecessary and the government should not bring any move to curtail this freedom. We need open democracy and open discussion. So he said, what? Discussion hona chahiye. Social media mein baat karna chahiye. People should talk and you should not curtail it. Very good. All this is very good. Very nice to hear. But you know what happened? There is this gentleman called Kunal Kamra, which I'm sure we all know, who had tweeted about what the Supreme Court said and possibly joked. He's a comedian. So he joked about Supreme Court and contempt of court was slapped on him. Prashant Bhushan, a man didn't joke. He was serious. He said, how could the Chief Justice sit in a motorcycle so expensive, and that too a BJP party member's motorcycle? Contempt of court on him too. So there was this young cartoonist. Her name was Rachita Talleja, and Rachita Talleja had done a couple of cartoons which is on your screen at the moment. And again, she was also booked under a contempt of court, and the permission for which, the nod for which was given by the same gentleman, Mr. K.K. Venugopal, our Attorney General. So while he says that there should be freedom of expression, but Baba, you should, be very careful of what you're saying. Now, I will tell you what he's saying is not entirely incorrect. Because some people tend to get that freedom of expression, and if you see, there is a lady called Shefali Vaidya, who is a known right-wing kind of a ideology, and she has said a lot of things about court. In fact, one of her tweets, "India doesn't have a justice system, we have a joke," she wrote. But here, no, here I think it should be the freedom of expressing oneself in the social media. So when such people call court is not a court, it is a joke and all, it is okay. But when some people call it, that becomes contempt. So remember my first thing what I said? Good insult and bad insult. This is the example of good insult and bad insult. We've noticed that a lot of you who come and watch our shows, watch our programs, watch our news items, have not subscribed to our channel. We'll be highly obliged if you could spare 2 minutes to subscribe to our channel, to press that bell icon and help us grow our channel. Till we meet next time. Namaskar.